Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our worldwide audience for the FAA's 2020 International Rotorcraft Safety Conference. I am Stephen Barbini, manager of the FAA's General Aviation Rotorcraft Unit within the Aircraft Certification Service. I'll be your MC for this three-day event that includes more than 2,000 participants from 6 continents. We'll delve into every aspect of rotorcraft safety, and it promises to be an outstanding learning experience. First, some housekeeping information. We are offering Wings, AMT, and IA credits for many of these presentations. To receive credit for IA refresher hours, enter your email address into Zoom Q&A box. For Wings and AMT credits, enter the email address associated with your FAAsafety.gov account into the Q&A box also. If you have audio difficulty, you may want to dial in along with logging into Zoom. Attendees using phone dial-in without logging into Zoom will not receive any credits. To kick off the event, our first speaker is Lance Gant, Director of the FAA Compliance and Airworthiness Division, which oversees certification, design approvals, and operational safety of aircraft products. Lance will offer a brief discussion about aircraft certification priorities. The floor is all yours, Lance.
Well, thank you, Stephen. And once again, welcome to the 4th FAA International Safety Conference. And this is actually our first virtual conference. I want to thank you for taking the time over the next 3 days to participate in this international effort to promote helicopter safety. As Stephen said, my name is Lance Gant. I have the honor of serving as the Director of Compliance and Airworthiness, a division in the Aircraft Certification Service. We are launching this conference at a transformative time for the rotorcraft industry and the FAA. Preventing fatal rotorcraft accidents through safety enhancements and improved occupant protection remains a priority for us. Congress demonstrated this in 2018 when they passed legislation requiring crash-resistant fuel systems in newly manufactured rotorcraft. But beyond FAA regulation and congressional legislation, we know the fastest enhancements in aviation safety occur when each pilot, mechanic, company, and industry as a whole takes a voluntary approach to advance rotorcraft safety to a higher level. We begin this conference at a time when the national system is changing and changing rapidly. Companies are developing vertical takeoff and landing vehicles tailored to the urban mobility market. We expect that they will become part of the transportation landscape over the next several years. I don't have to tell many of you that unmanned aerial systems, also known as drones, present opportunities as well as great challenges with how you do your jobs. We are working with flight standards and air traffic to address safe operation of drones within the NAS. The helicopter industry has stepped up to this higher level of safety as well. They're putting out new designs, which are very much more sophisticated and advanced, but they also allow a higher level of safety. To stay relevant in these challenging aviation, in the new challenges of aviation safety, I want to remind you that the Aircraft Certification Service is progressing with the refinement of our organization, and we are committed to keeping aviation safety a priority as we move to a more comprehensive approach to becoming more efficient and effective. I want to encourage you to keep thinking of ways to improve safety, as our FAA Administrator, Steve Dixon, will emphasize in his commitment to raising the safety bar by continuous improvements as he delivers his conference keynote speech. We have several significant efforts and developments at the FAA that we want to share with you. Wayne Fry, a colleague of mine and a division manager in the Flight Standards Service, which by the way is co-sponsoring this conference with us in the Aircraft Certification Service, will speak to flight standards priorities now and during the future. Kylie Key from the FAA Civil Aeromedical Institute will discuss research involving augmented reality instructions, the use of computer-generated images, and whether they improve aviation maintenance operations. Don Arndt, an FAA Senior Technical Specialist for Safety Management, will provide insight into creating a safety culture, safety risk management, and risk-based thinking. And lastly, Rotorcraft Standards Branch Manager Jorge Castillo will address some ideas around a safety rating concept for Rotorcraft, while FAA's Accident Investigations Director Patrick Hempen will share our latest accident investigation updates and analysis. Our colleagues from industry and safety advocacy groups are here to help you better maintain your helicopters, navigate pilot training through this national health, and better understand unmanned aircraft systems' impact on our skies and the technology available to save lives. We will hear about unintended consequences and how we can stop making the same mistakes over and over that risk our safety. I especially want to thank Dave and Amanda Repshire and Carrie Mahaney for joining us to tell their stories involving a tragic helicopter crash in Colorado and driving home a message for why we're all here this week. I particularly want to acknowledge Nick Mayhew, who's representing the U.S. Helicopter Safety Team, one of our partner organizations that dedicates itself to improve rotorcraft safety in the United States and worldwide through its affiliation with the International Helicopter Safety Foundation. And I particularly want to thank FAA Administrator Steve Dixon for taking the time to be with us today. His presence and his expertise helps illustrate the FAA's absolute commitment to aviation safety. The emphasis on safety comes at a time when the U.S. fatal helicopter accident rate is experiencing an upturn. After we observed several great improvements just a few years ago. The rate, however, for the past 2 years is comparable to the higher rate we saw 15 years ago, per our analysis. This year is on track to have the same results. The industry has the capability to be accident-free because we've seen streaks of free from accidents and up to 90 days at a time. FAA employees and contractors spend their careers working to achieve our country's mission to have the world's safest and most efficient aerospace system in the world. But we know that we don't have all the answers in the FAA. Some important challenges can only be solved if government, industry, pilots, and mechanics work together. That's why the FAA hosts such conferences and works to keep admission costs free so that as many people as possible can attend. So our challenge over the next 3 days and into the future is to take heart this conference motto, lifting safety through education. We all have an important role to play to realize this motto. I urge you to share what you learned during this conference with your friends and colleagues in the aviation community. We know that together, through conferences such as this, and through the valuable conversations that we will have and hope will occur in the days and months ahead, that we are on the right path to a safer future. So once again, thank you for your demonstrated dedication to safety by being here. Good luck with your conference. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Wayne Fry. Wayne is an FAA division manager responsible for 9 general aviation flight standards offices, and he is the government co-chair for the U.S. Helicopter Safety Team. Wayne will speak briefly about flight standard service priorities. Over to you, Wayne.
Thank you, Lance. Let me do a quick comm check. Lance, can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Very good. Thank you so much. And it's certainly a pleasure to be here today and to represent Flight Standards. As Lance said, my name is Wayne Fry, and I am one of the 8 division managers in the General Aviation Safety Assurance part of Flight Standards. The 8 of us are responsible for the 80 Flight Standards district offices, the offices that most of you probably interact with on a regular basis. None of those FSDOs are my division, and they're located across the country, from Oakland to Pittsburgh, from Baton Rouge to Boise. And although my offices work with all parts of general aviation, I'm very blessed to have a very heavy emphasis on helicopters in my offices. Our offices manage and oversee most of the large helicopter air ambulance companies, and the Baton Rouge office oversees operators that support oil and gas operations in the Gulf of Mexico. A little bit about myself. Prior to coming to the FAA, I was a helicopter mechanic at one of those offshore companies, and I've been with the FAA for about 24 years. I also have the privilege, as Lance noted, of being the government co-chair for the United States Helicopter Safety Team. On Thursday, my friend and industry co-chair, Nick Mayhew, will be telling you a little bit more about the USHST. Certainly encourage you to join, participate, and support the efforts to make this aviation business we're in a safer place. So it's kind of tough these days to talk about helicopter operations and what FAA priorities are without discussing the impact that COVID-19 has had on our industry, the FAA, and of course, international operations. But there's one message I really want to state very clearly, and I think you'll hear this from more than just me this week. The FAA is open for business. All aspects of the FAA continue to operate to ensure the safety of the flying public. It's the heart of what we do, and especially in flight standards. In the middle of this health emergency, the FSDO's never shut down in our efforts in rulemaking, writing and publishing policy and guidance, and all other aspects of our work have functioned and will continue to function. Does some of it look a little different? Sure. But we're still here, and we've been here all along. In fact, as Lance mentioned, we're doing a lot of work with unmanned aerial systems. We're looking at how can we integrate them. We're starting to see some amazing technology. Recently, I got a great briefing about the UASs. They're here, they're coming, they're going to be here very quickly, and they're going to be manned. So we're looking forward to working with Lance and his team and everybody in the FAA to move that work forward. So one of the changes that you've seen in our offices as we support you in the GA community is that our offices may not look open. Most of our staff, inspectors, managers, support staff, telework from home. And we're doing this to keep our people safe just like you do. So if you drop by the local FSDO, there may not be anyone there, but you will see a sign on the door telling you how to get in touch with us. We still stop in occasionally, and we will support you if we need to meet in person. But the best way to contact us now really is probably through phone or email. We're still there, we're still supporting you, we're still working as hard as we can. So as we've learned how to navigate in this new environment, one of the priorities that we've come up with is open and consistent communication. It's more important than ever. So to stay connected, we need to talk, or more likely now, Zoom. I'm told that on most days, the FAA has over 5,000 Zoom meetings. And many of these are with you, or your coworkers, or operators, or repair stations, or our peers over in aircraft cert working on major issues and resolving problems. And with the onset of COVID-19, it's really been a little more challenging for us to visit your facility in person, so we're setting up more calls and video conferences. As I speak with the people in my offices, I'm told that we now actually have seen increased internal communication within the FAA. Most of our managers have daily management Zoom meetings, weekly meetings with their employees. And I will tell you, a lot of calls with me, a lot of Zoom meetings with me. This also holds true with our interaction with you folks, the operators, the repair stations, the schools. Many of our inspectors have found that they're communicating with their operators more also. They're sharing concerns about risk, changes, procedures, manual updates, et cetera. And we'll continue to work in this environment for quite a while. So we're hoping that you'll continue to support us in these efforts, but also understand that as we do this work and as we continue to support your repair station or your 135 operation or your school, that helping us by giving us digital copies of most work helps a lot. Just after COVID struck, flight standards, like our friends in aircraft certification, started to expand our use of video conferencing. Now, you probably hear us call that VCT, video conferencing technology. Sometimes that sounds pretty high tech when much of it's no more complex than using an iPad to FaceTime, just like you do with your friends and family. We've used this technology to perform work like aircraft conformity inspections. When operators and repair stations such as you are open to the idea and have the needed equipment, we can use iPads, iPhones, other laptops, and not just see each other, but to view aircraft panels or interior configurations. We can verify that you have the equipment needed to perform job functions, or to assist you in watching how you do the job. All of this while sitting across town or even across the country. I have to tell you, a lot of this is pretty new to us and probably to you also, so we're still figuring it out. We're doing some experimentation. We're trying to figure out how to best work in this environment, but also how to continue to support the general aviation community and all of you in the helicopter industry. For everyone's safety and peace of mind, we won't ever do this type of work without both of us agreeing to it. That is, if we're going to use video conferencing or some kind of video conferencing technology, we'll agree to it up front. We'll both agree how to do it. We'll both agree what happens. And we'll also agree that if it's not working, we'll stop. So if you do end up having a camera in one of your facilities, or we're doing a walk around with you on an aircraft, it'll be because we've agreed to do it, and we'll manage the process and collaborate. But we won't ever do it without your approval and your consent. So that's a very safe space. But just think of the possibilities. For example, the FAA continues to perform various activities for foreign repair stations. I see we have, I think, over 500 people now in here, and I'm assuming that many of you are overseas. Well, I asked one of my friends in the International Programs Division about their use of video, and he told me they've been very active using video conferencing. In fact, since this began, they've done 148 video conferencing activities in 33 other countries. Think of that. We have done video conferencing with people in 33 different countries. The bulk of these activities are related to certification and renewal, and maybe our surveillance program. Other activities are providing airman designee authorizations, testing services, etc. This has allowed these foreign facilities to continue to operate even when our FAA inspector wasn't able to travel to their location. This is a major step in the right direction for us to continue to support our international partners, our international repair stations, and our domestic ones also. We're very excited about the possibilities, and I will tell you, we have the support from our leadership at the very highest level. I could not be more impressed with not only how the flight standards and aircraft certification have embraced this technology, but how our leadership has enabled us and encouraged us to do this also. So I've said a lot in a pretty short period of time there, but I can't emphasize too much that we need to freely, openly, and continuously communicate. In fact, an example, yesterday we had in Flight Standards, we had a webinar with about 100 of our Part 135 charter operators and about as many inspectors. We talked about the challenges and the myriad ways we found to utilize new and innovative means to work together. And I mean that clearly. We're working together. We're continuing to work. We're finding different ways of taking care of business. We also talked about some of the things that didn't quite work. We also talked about some of the areas where we need improvement. But we talked and we'll continue to talk. This new way of working also means that we have to be patient with one another. If you need to visit a FSDO in person, we'll still do that. But it may take some time to make the arrangements. And of course, we're going to follow CDC guidance and ask that you continue to be as safe and protected as possible. We want you to be safe. We want our folks to be safe. And I would say this because I say it every chance I get, if you don't know your people in your local FSDO, your international field office, give them a call. Send them an email. Establish a relationship with your inspectors and the office managers. It certainly will help somewhere down the road, I promise you. So I've spoken at length about our field offices, but the FSDOs is more, Flight Standards is more than just our FSDOs. We have offices that oversee the large airlines, the Americans, the Deltas, and they're still open, but like us, primarily working from home. One of the most important things that we're doing is our Office of Safety Standards. These are people, and we used to call them headquarters or the policy people, continue to write regulations and guidance, and they're still working hard. In fact, they've been some of the hardest working people in the FAA during the health emergency. They're the ones that worked with you, your industry organizations, the advocacy groups, to issue deviations, exemptions, and waivers. These have truly been essential during the COVID emergency. They've worked tirelessly to support all of our stakeholders, all the while continuing to support safety in the NAS. This has been no small task. And it once again speaks to the importance of communication. The safety standards staff was in constant communication with those who requested exemptions to gain a deep understanding of what was needed by industry. And I can say without hesitation that the cooperation and collaboration between the industry representative groups and the FAA made much of this work possible. We're also working on improving our guidance. The other day, I got a great briefing from the Flight Standards Office that works with the FAA's airport divisions concerning their efforts to update and improve heliport approval and design guidance. This work will simplify and speed up these projects, make it clear, and certainly make your lives better. I'd be remiss if I didn't at least mention safety management systems, because we've seen SMS has been especially important during these difficult times. Having systems that identify and address risks and hazards could not be more important, especially when the risks are new and unforeseen. We're working on making SMS easier for smaller operators and even more scalable. I think it's an opportunity for all of us to raise the bar, and I would certainly encourage you to look into safety management systems if you haven't already seen one. Even if it's not an FAA-approved program, a safety management system will make you a better, safer operator. Although it's not a flight standards program, we're seeing other programs move forward that are going to have a great impact on helicopter safety. One example is the installation of weather cameras in Hawaii. These cameras will allow pilots to see the weather where they're going and will have a direct impact on safety. This is extremely helpful in places like Hawaii where the weather is dynamic and changes in a flash. We've had such great success with weather cameras in Alaska. I hope some of you have seen them, but we're also looking at putting them in Colorado. But there's still a way to go and much to be done. Many segments of the helicopter industry have seen severe challenges. I think about the helicopter air tour industry. One of my favorite parts of the industry has really had a lot of challenges. Repair stations, you've had to adapt and keep your employees safe and secure. And all this is done while still performing our normal job functions. I think it's vital we all recognize the stress and strain COVID has put on our workforce, and I include management in this group. In addition to your full-time job of running your businesses, you're trying to figure out how to keep your employees safe, work with your customers, and all the other hills you have to climb. When possible, please take time to take care of yourselves. So the FAA is open. Our folks up in Washington, D.C., who are now really scattered around the country, teleworking primarily, are doing amazing work and working hard to continue to support this industry to keep it going and keep it vital. I would encourage you to work with your industry groups, work with your local offices to keep as safe as possible and not let this national emergency impact our safety profile at all. Lance mentioned that we've not done as well in the safety arena in the helicopters. Fatal helicopter accident rate is not moving the right direction. And as a member and government co-chair for USHST, I take this very seriously. In addition, my offices that oversee so many airframes really take this to heart, and they're going to do all they can to work with you. So in closing, thank you for all you do to keep our industry safe. And one last reminder that the FAA and flight standards are still open to do the administrator's work, which helps me bring my presentation to a close and the opportunity to introduce our keynote speaker. This really is a pleasure, FAA Administrator Steve Dixon. Prior to his FAA leadership, Mr. Dixon was Delta Airlines Senior VP for Flight Operations and flew in line operations as an A320 captain. He previously flew 727s, 737, 757, and 767 aircraft during his career. He's a former United States Air Force officer and an F-15 fighter pilot, a 1979 graduate of the United States Air Force Academy, as well as a graduate of the Georgia State University College of Law. Welcome, Administrator Dixon. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. I just got a message the administrator is going to be delayed for a few minutes. We'll just stand by, get more information as the texts roll in. So just ask everybody to be patient till he can get online. Please stand by.
Stephen, it appears the administrator has joined us.
Hi, we'd love to introduce and welcome the administrator of the FAA, Steve Dixon. Steve, take it away.
Well, thanks. We'll keep things running on time here. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for the FAA's Rotorcraft Safety Conference. I want to thank Lance Gant, the director of our Compliance and Airworthiness Division, and his entire team for continuing this safety conversation in the virtual environment that we all find ourselves in right now until we can get together in person. We'd certainly much rather be doing that, but we're finding new ways, as everyone is, to get the job done. And it's really important for us to stay engaged and stay involved with each other. I'd also like to thank Steve, Lance, and Wayne for opening the conference with a great discussion about the FAA's certification and flight standards priorities for Rotorcraft. And of course, these are two of the many components that support the agency's broad safety mandate, which is, of course, to provide the safest and most efficient aerospace system in the world. And I use the term aerospace very intentionally with where we are right now. And of course, rotorcraft are essential to the efficiency and productivity of that aerospace system. We all know that. You know, we saw this in the spring, without a doubt, when COVID-19 caused a very high percentage of our air transportation network to go dormant, literally just about overnight. But not rotorcraft. Helicopter operations were back pretty much to normal levels by about the middle of May. And whether it was for police, EMS, utilities, corporate shuttles, or literally hundreds of other purposes, rotorcraft are essential. No other flying machine can do the things that you can do. And everyone here knows that, and that you want what's best for industry, and that's why all of you are here with us today. My reason for being here, and the reason that the FAA is having this conference, is to both recognize the unique aspects of this segment of the aviation industry, and to put our heads together, government, industry, and academia, to figure out how to move the ball forward on safety together in a collaborative way. You know, you see, together we go higher. To realize the full potential of any sector of aviation, safety has to be the top priority. It's no secret that the airline industry in the US is the gold standard when it comes to unprecedented safety levels. It's the safest form of transportation in human history. And one of the key elements to the success story is the collaboration and partnership and sharing of information and data between all stakeholders, everyone who has a role in the system, whether it's the FAA, manufacturers, pilots, mechanics, controllers, flight attendants, and many, many others. I also include survivors on this list, as they have experienced what can happen when we don't get it right. We're increasingly using safety management systems, or SMS, to formalize and streamline this flow of information and data within an organization, and frankly, between the organization and the regulator. As you know, SMS is a required element of Part 121 airline operations, and we're progressively deploying the practices the same way, scaling them throughout the aerospace industry. Part and parcel of SMS are the practices of flight data monitoring and safety reporting. These are proactive, data-driven approaches to oversight that prioritize safety over all else and do it in a systematic way. To be successful, these programs rely on a just culture that places great value on frontline employees raising and reporting safety concerns as they identify them. With a just culture, pilots, mechanics, and aviation workers are empowered to report honest mistakes and issues without fear of retribution. That atmosphere gives people the freedom to report and provide their leadership with data that they can use to get a heads up on what might be an accident or incident in the making. Now, we're encouraging operators to adopt and use flight data monitoring as feedback into their training programs, and ideally make it part of a systematic SMS process. When we integrate safety management principles into the design and manufacturing processes, We'll ensure a systems approach to safety by coordinating risk management processes and providing feedback loops between design, manufacturing, operation, and maintenance. Now, you can see that we're firm believers in the power of SMS. In fact, right now, the FAA is targeting the spring of 2022 to publish a proposed SMS rule that will apply to air taxis, air tour operators, repair stations, and PMA parts providers. We're also working on an SMS for airports. Of course, you don't have to wait for these rules to be out there. By voluntarily implementing an SMS, an operator can really get ahead of the curve and identify hazards and head off incidents or accidents by putting safety risk management processes in place proactively. The key is being able to identify and understand the risks in your operation, and that's what an SMS provides. For the rotorcraft sector specifically, there are a variety of outlets for sharing information to make all of us safer. We have a Go Local workshops where we take the FAA's safety team or FAST team and industry safety experts directly to local pilots to discuss certain accident scenarios as a starting point to educate pilots on decision making. Now, we had to suspend some of these in-person meetings temporarily due to COVID-19. But the good news is that we're close to launching virtual workshops where participants will vote in real time on how pilots should react to challenges during a precarious helicopter flight. Now, a great way to share your experiences and learn about the best practices of others is to participate in our newly instituted Helicopter InfoShare program. InfoShare, if you've never heard of it, is a program that we started in partnership with the airline industry a number of years ago. But its success is leading other sectors, including business aviation and now Rotorcraft, to adopt a very similar model. Another avenue for sharing best practices is through the Helicopter Safety Advisory Council, which has developed recommended practices for oil and gas industry rotary wing operators that are easily adaptable to other helicopter sectors. Now, I know, you've heard it before about thinking outside the box and being proactive, but for the rotorcraft sector, that's what I really need all of us to do right now, and that's what we need to do together. For 15 years now, the helicopter fatal accident rate has remained roughly the same. As I said earlier, we've got to continue to improve. We've got to move the ball toward the safety goal line of 0 fatal accidents. No accident, and more so, no fatal accident, is acceptable. We all have to agree on that. And that's why we support the U.S. Helicopter Safety Team, which has made 0 fatal accidents its primary mission. This government and industry group that includes some of our FAA safety professionals is taking a scientific, data-driven approach using adoption of safety proposals based on data. We're also strongly advocating for operators to make voluntary safety upgrades where it's beneficial, including helicopter occupant protection features. Now, why, you may ask, is that so important? Because blunt force trauma injuries are linked to more than 90% of helicopter fatalities. Now, for new helicopter designs, certification rules require potentially life-saving protection through crash-resistant seats and surrounding structures. But the thousands of helicopters in our legacy fleet aren't required to have these features. Why not consider retrofitting these upgrades? Now, other retrofit safety options that we'd like to see include crash-resistant fuel systems. As required in our 2018 reauthorization, the FAA is requiring new production helicopters built after April 5th of 2020 to have these systems out of the box. But we'd really like to see those same systems available and operators voluntarily installing them on the legacy helicopter fleet. I think you can see that we already have many options available to help us improve the safety record of the rotorcraft industry. But we're always looking for new ideas and new ways to work together. And that's where you come in. Please use this conference to recalibrate and recommit to safety. And tell your friends who couldn't join us. Now's the time. There's no time like the present. We have the critical mass to make real change. Safety always has to be our top priority, our North Star by which we really center our core values around. But you don't have to take my word for it. Listen in on the next session where you'll hear from 3 people who will remind us why safety is so important. Like many others who have lost family and loved ones in aviation accidents, Dave and Amanda Repsher and Karen Mahaney have become catalysts for change in the industry. When you hear their stories, they will drive home why all of our efforts together to increase safety are truly necessary. When we make the aviation industry as safe as it possibly can be, we save lives in the process. We can't ever forget that. And we make progress, perhaps slowly sometimes, but steadily and surely in our quest to achieve zero fatal accidents. Thanks again for your participation, for your leadership and your commitment to safety, and have a great conference, and thank you for your hospitality today.
Thank you, Administrator Dixon. And thank you, Lance and Wayne, for setting up a great foundation for this conference, which promises to be a great conference, a lot of safety information. And now we have approximately 1 hour and 10 minutes for a meal break. Our next presentation will begin 15 minutes before the next hour. We'll see everybody back then. Thank you.